Thank you for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Miller. Our guest today is Rabbi Yossi Harlig with the Chabad of Kendall, Pinecrest and Kendall. Thanks for being here, Rabbi.
Always my honor, privilege to be here. You're looking younger and younger.
It takes a lot of money to do that. Let's talk about a couple of weeks ago. There was a man and a woman who were they were at some concert.
I didn't hear about it.
Oh, you didn't hear about it. And so he was married. She worked for the company.
Yes.
And they had this big spotlight on them, and they like flipped out. They sort of hid away, and there were memes, or whatever you call it, on social media, just ridiculing these people. One of the things that a lot of people failed to see is what the folks from Miami Foundation said, which subsequently you said something similar, not knowing that. She says, why is it that we take such glory in watching other people suffer? Tell us what you said in your recent video that's on your web. Where did I see that?
Yeah, on my YouTube and social media, Facebook, okay. Yes. This is a story that went viral like all over the world, and people were sharing it, and hundreds of millions of people were watching it and retelling it and enjoying it. And I said, this story is more a reflection of us, exposes who we are versus who they are. Meaning, why do we get such enjoyment watching other people fall? And for a lot of times, it makes us feel better about ourselves. We're not so bad. That, look at these people, they're even worse. Or this perfect person running a company, $1 billion, and she had this most powerful position, and we caught them at a great failure in life. So it makes us feel better. And I shared that, really in life, instead of putting someone down, I shared this story of this two kids who were playing a game, and the younger brother pushed the older brother in a pit, and he stood on top of the pit. He says, look, now I'm taller than you. And his father overheard the conversation. He said, if you want to be taller than someone, you don't have to push them in the pit. Why don't you stand up in a chair and go higher yourself? And I said, in life, what we have to learn is not enjoy other people falling, which we all do, but lift ourselves up and make ourselves higher. We should be better.
So I made some notes. So why is it we so often laugh? So here's number one, because it's a relief and feeling of superiority. Laughing can be a way of, releasing some pressure. And it's this sudden glory. I am so much better than them because I wouldn't do that. And for whatever the reasons were, the wife, that marriage is probably over. He got either terminated or suspended. The woman worked for him. The whole thing is just a terrible thing. Imagine the kids, and imagine everywhere they went, all right, if they had kids, that their peers were making comments. And so one of the things we recognize when we can laugh, all right, the old saying is laugh and the whole world laughs with you, but when you weep alone. So I keep thinking about that poor family on both sides. And yes, it was a weak moment for them, and they had some sort of relationship, but that family unit is now essentially, for the most part, probably over. And then we look at when we see people in their discomfort, all right, that we get nervous about it. Well, what do? We call people stupid. Why did they do, whoever it was, why did they do it? They should have known better. They were raised better. And so let's talk about the peer influence when we're sitting around and we're talking about that. If there's people that are empathetic like you and like me, we're not laughing about it. But there's a whole bunch of people, millions and hundreds of million people laughed. So let's look at what we can do instead of laughing about people's misfortunes. What can we do to build people up? And in that position that they're in, they do need some building up. And your experience as a rabbi for how long?
Over 30 years, close to 30 years.
And I'm sure you've come across this dozens of times. So what is we can do as friends and neighbors of even if we don't know the person, when we're in that group and people start laughing, what is it that we can do so that we can help influence people to not look at it like a failing on their part, and then we shouldn't laugh at that, but try to help build them up?
Great question. So, one of the most famous verses in the Bible, in the Torah, is "V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha," love thy neighbor as you love yourself. And I remember, I'm a chaplain from the Miami-Dade Police Department. And I remember when they were swearing in a director, I think his name was Loftus, was he a director? I think it was him. And I remember him giving his talk, and he said something. When he was a rookie, he was getting a ride. Usually when you're starting off, a more experienced police officer gives you a ride. not gives you a ride, takes you around and trains you. And one time he's driving down the street, and this guy that was training him turns to this young officer. Today he became the director of the police department, and he asked him, "Tell me, what do you see in that corner?" He said, "What do you mean? I see there a drug addict." "What do you see in that corner?" He said, "No." He said, "What do you see in that corner?" "Oh, I see a homeless person." "What do you see over there?" He said something else. "No." He says, "What do you know? That's what I see." "No, you don't see that. You see your mother there. You see your brother there. You see your child there." And when you're an officer, when you're driving down the street, if you look at people like this is your family members, how would you want your mother to be treated? How do you want your brother to be looked at? How do you want your child to be respected when a cop stops him? Then you'll look at it very differently. And I thought that message, I still remember hearing it. Sometimes you hear something, it's like, wow. And I thought that message was so clear. If we become more sensitive and realize, if this was my father in that video, if this was my child, if this was my spouse, how would I want that video to be shared? That's what love thy neighbors, love yourself. How would you want to be treated? And that's how you should treat other people. And if you could start thinking that way, then you will be very different when you are in situations like that. Say, if this was your child, would you want this video to be passed on? Because we really are all God's children. We really all are one family. You know, one of the first prayers we say before we start praying, I take upon myself to love thy neighbor as I love myself. Why is that the first thing? He says, before you pray to God, before you do anything, is you have to think about other people. And that's something that's very special. Another second point is, you know, human nature is that when it comes to being a good person, we say, listen, I'm not so bad. This guy is much worse than me. When it comes to business, or when it comes to other things, you say, oh, that guy has more money than you, or this guy, whatever. You like to put people down. But it really needs to be the opposite. When it comes to being a good person, you have to try to be the best. And say, is this really something I should do or not do?
So Grant, who's my brother, who's typically tough on the outside, he really cares a lot, and I've seen that with his work with children. A couple Christmases ago, he went underneath the bridges downtown Miami with dozens of pairs of tennis shoes and a camera. He came back. He was in shock. He was so incensed that we, as this global community here, one of the best communities certainly in the United States, that we allowed that stuff to happen. And he videotaped it, and he sees these people sleeping under, you know, the overpass. And he came back. It's still impacting me, all right, much less him, that there's something more that we need to do. Not too long ago at 103rd Street and the Palmetto Expressway, I was getting off. There was a 30-year-old woman, more or less. They had their 5-year-old boy laying in the grass 5 feet from my left tire, and the husband. I gave him some money. Somebody, why did you do that? They're just faking it. What's not fake is that 5-year-old boy is there in the grass. You can call that whatever you want. And the other day, while I was at a stoplight, I see a guy is there, you know, asking for money. And I'm so frequently so close to reaching in my pocket or reach over here, and they are so close to getting some help, albeit just money, all right? And they don't realize how close they were for me being able to get that money in time. And I think it's important for us to do what we can do, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and it's also important to remember, you should never, it says in the Ethics of a Father, you shouldn't rejoice when someone else falls. And people love it. They read the articles, you know, if it bleeds, it leads. When you see, you know, a politician gets up there and they can knock him down, people love to jump in it. And we all are at fault at it. I'm not sitting on the high horse and saying I'm different. But it's like we have to remind ourselves again, is this really the right thing to do? Is this really something that we want to be done to ourselves?
So one of the things that Grant and I made a decision, going back actually from the roots of it came from you with the work that you do with autistic people, children and adults at the friendship circle. It's friendship circle, yeah. Friendship circle is to be able to help people, because you never know, all right, who you're going to be able to help. And one day it will be somebody in your circle. There's no question about that. And in April, when you were here, when we had a meeting with some Chamber of Commerce people, and it was Autism Awareness Month, in came Autism Dad. Do you know, I was so moved by the work that he's done. Whenever I can give him a microphone to speak, he does that. He brings in parents with autistic children, and I look at the work, the trauma that it is on that whole family unit, including Candy's, I forget her last name. She had twins. At 17 months, the babies were perfect, and in 2 weeks, they were non-communicative. You may be aware of that happens, but for the person on the outside, I'm not. I can't imagine the trauma that family went through. She had a big job. Husband had a big job, big house. Husband left. It's all public information. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, here's this trauma that she's going through. And you recognize that when she said, Michael, my whole job is get them to be able to transition to adulthood. That's my mission. That's what I need to get done. So the question is, what can we do for those that are not as fortunate as us to be able to open that door to speak the truth so that people who need it, all right, can get help?
Yeah, I think it's, once again, one of the things that we do on the Friendship Campus is give people an opportunity to open up their hearts and realize that how much you can make a difference in other people's lives. And people think the big way you make a difference is by writing the big check or coming up with some cure for the greatest, most challenging diseases. If you look in life, the biggest impact you have in people's lives is that small act of kindness, that you reached out to them, that you showed them that you really care, that you really did for them in a critical time. That's something that really has a big impact. A close friend of mine, a very successful attorney, passed away, Bob Josephsberg. He's been an attorney for 60 years. Most of the things that people say about him, that the impact he had, isn't as much about the big cases he won for them. It's like this lawyer said he went up against him and he lost, and he came over to him afterwards and said, you did a great job. Ignore the naysayers. It's the small things that people know that you're there for them and you care for them and you really care for them. That means the most. I'll tell you, in almost 30 years of what I'm doing, where I had the greatest impact is the small acts of showing up in the hospital, calling them up in a time of need, saying I'm there for them, more than any of the sermons I gave and all these great shows that we do. It's the small acts of kindness that has the biggest impact on people.
When our house was destroyed with Hurricane Andrew, people actually sent us toiletries. And I remember saying to Susan, what did we do to deserve this? And so that's 30 plus years ago. I remember it, I'm even getting goosebumps about people caring enough to be able to do that. About 2.5 years ago, somebody came over and said, listen, my son is on the spectrum. He graduated from such and such a school. Do you have an internship for him in videos, doing videos? And I said, I don't know. And then the dad took his phone to show me a video that the son had done. And I started leaning over and I said to myself, why are you leaning over? His father's trying to help his son. And so he said, okay, here's what we're gonna do. 4 hours a day, 3 days internship. At the end of the first day, we offered him a job because you never know when that's gonna happen. And we all have watched, our team here, in the 2.5 years now that he's been here. His growth has been tremendous. He had this sort of coming out party on LinkedIn. And when he said, just because we don't smile doesn't mean we're not happy. Just because we don't laugh doesn't mean that we don't think that it's funny. We communicate on a different level. We did a 20-minute show with him that we recorded it. He had a real conversation with me. His shyness seems to be waning. That's because the love and care of the people that are here, the acceptance that you speak about. And it was like, we are all stunned that to see the progress that he has made. Before he didn't want to talk to people. Now,
it's unbelievable. But I just want to share with you, I gave a tour to this mother and daughter who run a foundation this past Friday. And I told them about the Mitzvah Kitchen. Thank you. You're the first donor we had for the Mitzvah Kitchen.
Thank you to the team here at Community Newspaper.
Yes. So,
Emily, did you hear that? Emily's producing our show. Recent graduate from FIU. Thank you for joining us, Emily.
So the Mitzvah Kitchen is where you get the community come together and make food. And the lady told me, I've been a very accomplished person in life. I've had a lot of success. But there's one thing me and my friends have now is loneliness, because we feel like we lost the purpose of our life. If you could bring older people in and give them something they can know that they can make a difference. We make meals now. We give out the food. We want to even help the county now and give to organizations that may be losing out some of the funding for meals. But people want to feel that they can make a difference. People want to have an opportunity to make a difference. And that's what we create in our Friendship Campus, is opportunities for people to make a difference. One of the most heartwarming things for me personally is people finding out that people went into special needs field because they volunteered by us. So the idea is when you give people an opportunity to make a difference, it's something that you want to continue doing. That feeling feels great, knowing that you could change a person's life. You told me numerous times this story about the special needs person. You feel so great. More than I know these are great people in this room. You're happy to give them jobs. But for that means the world for you. That's what our campus is about, Friendship Campus, giving people an opportunity. Because everybody at the end of the day want to know they can make a difference. Don't you think so?
Yes. And when I look at, on the Dade County Commission, there's 2 commissioners that have special needs kids.
Yep.
I didn't know that. So it doubled. That's 2 out of 13 right there. All right. I hear the figures are enormous. And so a lot of people don't know that they know people that have special needs. When we were growing up, as Carlos McGoya from Jackson Hospital said, we used to call them slow. As soon as he said that, oh yes, now I remember growing up, they're slow. And what my mindset at that point was, stay away from it. It might be contagious. And I think there are a lot of people that try to ignore that, like we try to ignore the guy in the street who's sleeping there. So how do we move from not knowing and not caring enough to get people just to be self-aware of what's going on and to be acutely aware of how they feel about it?
I think they need to have experience being around it. It's like everything in life. Like we had people, volunteers who start volunteering with special needs. They said, oh my God, I never knew this world. We had yesterday some families who volunteered for food. And they said, wow, we didn't realize that there's a problem with food insecurity. I think the only way to do it is by experiencing it, by actually going there. Like you said, the story with Grant. He went under the bridge. I'm not advising everyone to do that, but you go under the bridge and you actually start having a conversation with someone. The main thing is also to start having conversations. I find that when you talk, when you travel, in general, I find that when we're home in our, few square miles, we don't talk to strangers. When you travel, you start talking to people next to you, and then you realize, wow, there's so many interesting people out there. I think it's starting to talk to people and being open to having conversations with people, and that could be a world of difference.
So let's talk about in 2023, the apartment condominium complex in Surfside collapsed.
2021.
2021. You were the chaplain there. You were there most every day for how long?
For 30 days.
For 30 days straight. So let's talk about the impact it had on you and how you were able to talk to the people, strangers, total strangers, right? And how they opened up to you and the impact that it had for them and also for you personally.
Yeah, so originally when it happened, it's not something I've ever experienced. It's not something that really has happened in our country. I mean, there's been death and destruction, but literally 30 days straight, people are hoping to pull out, and they know where the pile is, and they're trying to get people out. So that was very overwhelming. But I learned then also is that when you're put in a situation where you could help and make a difference in a crisis, you really shut down all your emotions and you stay super focused on being able to be there for the family. And I also learned, it's interesting, not to go into other topics, but one of the things they're talking about now, the hostages in Gaza, is that the family members are waiting to get the loved ones, even the dead, as much as the ones are waiting to get the ones that are alive. Now, you may think, really? And I saw that. I remember during Surfside, like day 2 or 3, I was walking down the street with a police officer and a father, and actually was caught on TV. It was on Fox and CNN. Father comes over to us and gives us a hug and says, I can't thank you enough for pulling, and he was crying, for pulling my child out of the building, actually child was on the spectrum, and I could bury him. And I saw the relief of families, like they won the lottery, that they could actually bury their family members. And you learn then that people want closure, and people want to be able to have that moment of being able to, have a funeral and bury their loved ones. And then now when you hear about what's going on in Gaza, you realize, yes, it is a big, big drain and stress and worry and panic of the families when they don't have their loved one's body to give back.
Right, but you mentioned that when you went to the site there, you had to turn off your emotions, all right, to be able to handle that. So at some point, the external stimuli slowed down and sort of stopped. What was it like for you as you became unwound and all that stuff for the last 30 days, all right, started flooding it.
No, it was after that. You're right. After those times, it was difficult because you realize you were with families that lost so much, that were in such pain, that was such shock. But it also taught me how to be there for people, and when in a time of crisis, because you learn quickly that what people just want is you to be there and know that you're there with them. And there's nothing you could say, there's nothing you need to say, and there's nothing they want you to say at that moment. They just want to feel that you're there and you really are not going to leave them and be with them through the process.
A lot of the survivors, family survivors, they have this eternal bond with the other people that were somewhere in that building, because we see every once in a while that they'll get together. So let's talk a little bit more about what the Friendship Circle is doing and for Chabad.
Yes. So thank God we opened the campus 3 months ago. It's been unbelievable. So many calls we're getting for people that want to join the programs. We started a new program. We're going to start now Friendship Bakery. We're going to have cookies and challah. We are doing also the Mitzvah Kitchen. We started this new organization where communities coming together to make food for people that are struggling with food insecurity. Chabad itself, we have a lot of people that are coming to services. People want to come to adult education classes. When you open a new place, there are more people that want to join and see it. People have told me, I've seen this building going up. I've never knew what's in this building. And what the beautiful thing about the campus, what I'm the most proud of, if you walk into our lobby, you'll see names of people on the wall. It's people from all segments of the community supporting it. So I feel like what the Lubavitcher Rebbe, my teacher, my guide, my spiritual leader taught us, is that we have responsibility for everyone in the community. And that's something that we always focus on. A second thing that happens is, I feel like when you open a campus and you raise so much money, you have responsibility to do even more. Not that my staff don't love it. They say, Rabbi, you're always thinking of new ideas.
And more work for us.
But I think it's important. I feel that when you take charity money, you have responsibility to do a lot of good with it. And I feel like it's God's money. So you don't just build a building, you sit back, oh, life is great, and I enjoy it. I'm the opposite. Okay, we got to do even more. What more can we do?
The one thing that I think that you're doing is some team building efforts by local companies. They want to come down.
Yeah.
You have a chef that's there.
Yeah.
And it's to bring your company down there, and you pay for it, and you create the food with your coworkers.
Correct. You make the meals with your coworkers. It's team building. A lot of people tell me it's a good time. People are not comfortable talking to other people. Over food, they talk to each other. There's team building to themselves to build up their own confidence. We had a lady that came a week ago to our event that she actually gets our food, but it was her birthday, so she wanted to feel like she could give back. So it's amazing team building, an amazing opportunity to really give back.
What do you do with the food that the company?
So the beautiful thing is the food is kosher. We're the only kosher facility in South Dade that actually people that keep a kosher diet, they get the food. It's not just for kosher people, but the beautiful thing about our meals is dairy-free and kosher, so anyone can eat from it. And then we partnered with other organizations that already have groups of people that are struggling with food insecurity, and we give them the food, or people come to our campus to pick up the food.
So let's talk about the original Chabad 25 years ago. About
20. I moved in 95.
Right on the corner at 112th Street and 87th Avenue.
Yep.
It was a house that was converted to a religious institution. It was just a regular house. At some point, you said, "We need to buy that lot next door." How soon did you decide to buy that lot?
So I moved in August 95. I ran Chabad out of my house. Then I rented a store in a shopping center. And then from there, we saw the prop in 87th and 112th Street. I said, wow, that's a great location. It's right in the center of South Dade. We want to buy it. At that time, I needed $10,000 for a deposit. I didn't even have the money. So I went to a donor. I said, could you help me with a deposit? He said, Rabbi, I want to teach you business in life. If you can't afford a deposit, you can't afford the building. I said, don't worry. Let's take one step at a time. I can't think that far ahead. Let me think about the deposit, then I'll figure that out, and then I'll figure out the next step. And, my famous line is don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Just do what you got to do, and just show up. You have your plans. I had the most, they say a rabbi doesn't get inspired. We're the hardest people to get inspired. Why? Because whenever I hear something good, I say, how could I repeat it? But I had this experience 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I was flying up to New York to take my son to camp, summer camp. Did I tell you the story? And I had a flight to catch, taking my son Ellie. He's 16 years old, to camp. So I was supposed to land in New York Tuesday night, stay in my parents' house in Brooklyn. Wednesday morning, meet the bus in Brooklyn, and then they're going to take him up to the Catskills. Right before I leave to the airport, Delta says the flight is delayed, then canceled. Very nice. They're putting me on a flight the next morning, 7 a.m. I said, this is no good, but if I land 10 o'clock, exactly the time, I can race to the bus. I'll make it onto the bus. Next thing I know, the flight is delayed to 9 o'clock. I'm not getting to 12. The problem is I have a 5 p.m. flight to catch back. So I can't even drive my son up to camp because it's a 2-hour drive. So I said, what am I going to do? And it was July 4th that week. If I don't make the flight back, I'm stuck in New York for like 3-4 days. I go to the airport, I don't know what to do. So I said, either I can maybe find someone that could drive him, or the buses are going to leave late, or something else. A, B, C. I didn't know what I'm going to do. Standing in line, getting onto the plane, and I'm thinking, I'm stuck. I'm talking to someone that I know, I know him, and he said, oh, my plane got canceled last night, your plane got canceled. He was on a different flight than my flight. We both got put on the same flight. We're talking. I said, listen, I'm really stuck. I'm about to take off. I'm with my son, Ellie. He has to get up to camp. I have no idea how I'm going to get him to camp unless the bus is delayed in New York. I can't drive him up because then I'm going to miss my next flight. Then I'll be in New York for 3 hours. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I'm calling people, yelling. He says, where's your son going? I said, I'm going to Catskills, like 2 hours away. He says, I rent a house right next to it. When we land, I'm going to rent a car. I'm going to drive your son up. I'm standing there like shocked. So I go over to him. I say, my son, Ellie, he's 16 years old. He looks like a typical kid, but he's on the spectrum. He tells me I have 2 grandkids that are on the spectrum. I'm a teacher. I'll take your kid. I got goosebumps. Here I'm thinking, okay, either A, the bus will be late, or I had A, B, and C, and God said, don't worry, there's D. Option D is standing on the line right next to you, someone that's going to drive your kid. We land in New York. I go with him to the rental place. I put my son in the car. He drives my son all the way to camp. I go back to the airport. Instead of panicking, having nowhere to go, now I'm sitting in the airport for 4 hours.
Sometimes in life, the answer is right there. We just haven't seen it yet.
So what I say, and the story is, you think it's A, B, and C. God says, no, there's something else. It's D. And always have faith in God. So that reminded me again that, you know what? You think all these plans make sense? There's another plan. And that's the same thing in general. I did everything and everything we did. I think this, that. You know what? I realized something else is going to happen completely different than all of us think. I mean, think about you sitting here now. Did you plan that you're going to have shows like this and one day it's going to be speakers? No.
That's not 10 years ago, no.
Right.
And so...
Isn't that a powerful story?
It is. So, and you can share that with all those kids and all those adults that get frustrated because they can't figure out how to get out of their own way. All this stuff is happening.
And if it's either A, B, C, and God said, no, it's D.
One of the things I've seen with you, you're able to compartmentalize things. Let's put it out there. I'm going to deal with this stuff because that'll always be over there, just whether I want to spend time. So there's some people that it just overwhelms them because they're trying to think of all those options. So you're a great example with that. In the couple of minutes we have left, why don't you tell us about your wife, what she's doing nowadays?
So my wife actually was just in New York, spending time with the family. As you get older and your parents get older, you realize, you know what? You got to go spend time with your family. You got to, especially people that have worked very hard and they're very, very focused. I got, like yesterday, my daughter, my wife was away for the weekend. I said, okay, great day. I get a lot of work done in the office. And then my daughter reaches out to me, you want to come for dinner? I said, I could drive to Hollywood. I'd just rather work, And then back in my mind, I'm saying, is that really the right thing? So when you like to work a lot, so I drove up there and it's important for people, especially that like to work. Like my son jokes with me, some people are looking for work-life balance. You're not looking for that balance. You just like working. So it's important to take more time out to be with your loved ones and spend time with your loved ones and be there with them, especially when that's not something that comes easy for you because you'd rather just work all the time. But Nechama's running a lot. She's running the women's program. She has a very big class once a week. Over 60 women come to it.
It's at the Friendship Campus.
At the Friendship Campus. We're at the Chabad. She's running a lot of the Chabad programs, the Friendship Circle. And we also are starting a preschool. So that's, God willing, we're going to start so soon. So we're all very busy.
So people can find you all over the internet, right?
Yeah.
And it's at 87th Avenue, 112th. You can't miss it, I promise you. When you get near it, you're going to feel it. We got about 1 minute left. Would you like to sign us out with a prayer of your choice?
Yes.
Let's look into what camera. Yeah, which camera should he look into?
This
the middle
one?
right there. There you go.
You know, in general, people always ask, you know, what are my rights? And we in Judaism don't say what are our rights. We say what is our responsibilities. And when God put us into the world, He gave us our responsibilities to make the world a better place and to impact the world. And every day we have to ask ourselves, how am I making the world a better place? And how do you make the world a better place? Look at the tools that were given to you. If you're a teacher, it's through impacting a student. If you're a doctor or lawyer, it's through being kind to your patients and your clients. If you're a parent, a mother and a father, is giving extra love and care to your kids and to each other. And if you're able to volunteer for great organizations like French Circle or Mitzvah Kitchen or Chabad or any other organization, you say, how could I change the world? And if you see someone fall, next time say, you know what, I'm not going to laugh. I'm not going to forward that. I'm going to look at them like they're my brothers and sisters, my child and my parents, and how would I want them to be treated? That's how I'm going to treat the other people, with love and compassion and care. God bless you all. And thank you so much.
Rabbi Yossi Harlig, thank you very much. Remember, folks, thanks for joining us. Take care of your families. Give them a hug tonight. Bye now.